right in the heart of Silver Bullet.
Yeah. I think they plotting on man. Don't wipe their feet when they enter the L.A.R. I feel a cold stare.
I was gonna say, in addition, yes, men who commit those crimes should absolutely be publicly shamed, but the women who lie about those crimes should have to do whatever full sentence the man was gonna do. So, hypothetically speaking, if you accuse a man of rape and potentially the longest he could do for rape is 5 years, right?
Okay.
I think she should have to take that. If you lied and we can prove that you lied without a reasonable, like beyond the shadow of that, this nigga wasn't even in the state when you said he raped you. You know what I'm saying? I think you should have to take that bid.
I fuck with that.
Cause that's a terrible. She should have to
Consent
take
is
that
a real thing, like-
entire fucking bid. Cause there's weird bitches out here that won't get what they want from men, and will turn around and be like, "Oh, mom, he raped me."
That's one of the. It's really dirt to do shit like that too, because it's like it really messes it up for the real victims.
And then men, the
Like-
thing is, like, once that shit is on you, not for nothing, as a man, like, if the people even hear about it, like,
And then men who go through that, then they don't believe women who tell them that it happened. Like, it's a lot going on with that. It's sad. It's so sad.
What's happening, man? I'm in here listening to Juvie, so my bad. Women who fake rape allegations. Yeah, they should get locked up. And I'm gonna tell you, as a person who's had that happen twice, and those people, well, okay, let me say it. The first time this happened was like 20 years ago. 20 some years ago. It was a family member who wanted another family member to give them money because that family member was rich. So they asked them for like 50, I think 50,000 or 80,000. I wasn't there when it happened. So I can't remember because it was so long ago, but it was a sizable amount of money. And they told him no. They told her no. So by the time I get there and it happens to be that person's birthday. So we all came together because of a wedding. So they were, drinking or whatever, and then you gonna go what? Yeah, because I already know. So that girl's father, is my uncle. You know what I'm saying? So it's my cousin. But my uncle was driving around, and so he drove his daughter and my other cousin back home. So one went to their house, one went to the hotel. I left because I grew up there, so I went to hang out with friends. So like a week later, like after the wedding and everything was over, I got a phone call. Like, did something happen that I don't know about? Like, because my older cousin got accused of this stuff. I was like, what are you talking about? And then he said person's name, and then he said what happened. I was like, oh yeah, she do that type of stuff. That's why I don't F with her. She been doing stuff like that since I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? She said the pastor touched it. She said, I remember she got beat up by some gangsters or whatever, and one of my friends who was in a different gang was in the same gang as her. He was like, "Yo, we got to go do such and such because somebody did something to your cousin." I was like, "No, because she's not gonna tell you what she did." And he's like, "What?" I was like, yeah. And he took my word because I was always straightforward, and she would always pick fights and then play victim. That was just her thing. So so that happens. She gets a lawyer because she doesn't go to the police because she just says, "You give me the exact amount that she asked for, that he said no to, then the charges would go away and it wouldn't ruin his life." So when he called me about it, I was like, "Man, F her." And then like a week later, because the story was he did it and her dad was driving the car when it happened. And I said, "Man, I know you're not gonna go with this story." And then like a week after that, I got implemented because it was like I set it all up. And I'm like, oh my God. So long story short, all that fell apart. Then years and years later, I had a friend. He's not a friend anymore, but it's a difference with them. They wound up somehow as an adult becoming schizophrenic. So they would be, so because when we first was cool, like it was like a good 10 years, there was no issues. And then got diagnosed with what is it? It's a form of schizophrenia. Uh psycho act something like that. Anyway, I can't remember it right now. But they got on meds, and when she was on her meds, she was cool. When she was off her meds, it just was bad. It would get increasingly worse. And then and come to find out, they'll put in a psych ward. I didn't know that part, but so basically, she had got divorced and was like, I want to be with you. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. I knew her and her husband the whole time. So, well, I knew her first, and then I met her husband before they got married, and then they got married, and then they was together for years and got divorced. And then she's like, I want to be with you. I was like, no, but we cool. Like, I was kind of like a godfather to the kid, and she was like a god. They were like godparents to mine. So, after the no, she got off her meds. Went through a stint where she got off her meds, and next thing I know, the police had my door. I'm like, what the? It was the wildest thing. I was in here with my lady on Valentine's Day, and the cop came in because backstory. I was getting cops on my ring cam when I was at work, and they rang the doorbell. And there's a wellness check, and that was before I knew what a wellness check was. So it was like 4 or 5 times they came to my house, but I was at work. So I'm like, okay. So this particular time, they actually came and I was home. And I'm like, it's Valentine's Day, my lady's here and whatever. And he's like, your fiance. I was like, fiance? Like, I know a fiance. So she told the cops she was my fiance. And I was off my meds, basically. And then he said, hey man, do you know how to backflip? I was like, what? No. I was like, well, why would you ask me that? And he said, look, man, I just had to come over here to see you in person because this girl's telling this story about you doing that y'all was having sex and you backflipped into it. Like you was doing it and you got up and backflipped and landed in it again. I was like, what? And the cop was cool. He was just like, she was there telling the story about you did this and you did that. And then, but she said you assaulted her, but she wants to write it all in a book because when a book comes out, it's gonna make money. And then it was something else with it, and then something else. It was gonna make money and being quote unquote engaged. So the cop, I was like, no, he was. The other thing was he was like, look, this is so unbelievable. I just had to come to ask questions, but we already figured she was lying. And I had to tell him, yeah, she's off her meds or whatever. And what wound up happening was, how can I say that? She started calling around to find my job in the location, and somehow she found it. And I had coworkers call me, hey man, such and such and such. I was like, what the? And I had to explain to them off of meds. And it was like, yeah. And there came a point where, who was it? The police had to, because her brother's a cop. Her brother's a cop too. So, and I wound up talking to her brother. He was like, man, just, because I wasn't the only one. That was the other thing about this. I wasn't the only one that she said this about. So it's a different story. So to me, I, if it goes bad, it can ruin your life. So I gotta tell these stories. They're true stories. So it can ruin your life. And I know people who've been accused, and there are people who actually did stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a homegirl in college, man. Her child's father did that to her after the baby was born. And I just say, man, if I saw you to this day, wow, she didn't want me to hurt him. Because when she told me, I was like, don't worry about it. I'm going to handle it. I'm going to handle him. And then she's like, please, because if you do something to him, he going to do something to me and his baby. And I was like, oh, you mother. So I didn't. And I was in college, and I wound up transferring schools. And I came back for like a homecoming, and he was trying to track her down and beat on her or whatever. And I just happened to be in town. Oh, that boy got so scared because he found out. I said, man, no, I'm gonna catch him. I ain't catch him though. But so I know it goes both ways. Like, and I said it to say, if this actually happened to you, you would actually want the person locked up because generally nothing happens. From my experience, generally it's just, Monday accusation, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're looking at it Friday, it's some BS. Saturday, that person's life just goes on. So, should they be locked up? Yeah, definitely. Because I was, even the ex friend that was off their meds. Do you know how if you knew how mad I was, like because it kept happening, it wasn't like a one time thing. It was like one, two, three. It was like 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, yo, y'all never gonna just stop this. So but the fact that she's got mental health issues that made it exacerbated it worse. Plus, she kept going back to the psych ward, so I guess so. But like the other situation, yeah, I'd have been like, bro, because it makes you so mad you can't do anything about it. Because that'll make you want to hurt a person, but then if you hurt the person that accused you of that, it's a whole nother story. You know what I'm saying? So there should be some type of penalty, you know. And sometimes that comes out in custody battles too. So it with no recourse. So should people go to jail for that? Yes. But I'm out. Catch you on the next one. Peace.